Hey everybody, welcome back to Get Fit With Me or Stay Fat, whichever. It is officially day 30. I have been on this for 30 days. And if you don't believe me, just check the whiteboard. Look at that. Look at that. And as is very fitting, considering the journey, it is an and/or day. I actually feel really great about today. My calorie goal is way higher than I would want it to be. It's at like 2,600, and my protein goal is at about 93. My caffeine goal, I've still managed to stay under 20 ounces of coffee. And my sleep goal last night, I mean, as always, could have been better. But I think I got to sleep around 1, so it's not the worst that it's been. But today was an awesome day. I had my second dressage lesson. So that was fantastic. Learned a lot. I'm really glad that I'm working out the way that I am because I think it's helping me in this discipline. And in addition to riding, which I'm going to tell you by the end of that hour, I had sweat soaking the back of my shirt. So I was for sure working then. I also went for a walk this afternoon, did about 2 miles, got an ice cream on the way. It's part of what bumped me up, but it was great to have husband and dog time with that walk. My exercises for today are, I'm alternating again. So my first exercise is going to be 15 ab roll-ups, then the maxi climber, 10 clockworks, then the maxi climber, 10 squats, then the maxi climber, hanging knee lifts, maxi climbers, and then I'm doing this for 5 rounds. So I'm doing 5 rounds of these 4 exercises, maxi climbers in between, and then my bonus sort of self-care is I'm going to be doing the So Right, and I'm going to be doing a PNF release for the Psoas as well. You've seen me with the So Right. It's fine, but it is just me laying there being uncomfortable. There's not a lot of that to watch. But I will show you the PNF release that I do for the Psoas. And I'll explain more about what a PNF release is at that point in time. I don't know if I've said this before, but I'm a massage therapist. I've been practicing for like 19 years now, I think. And as time has gone on, I've come across a lot of different ways to stretch and address different muscles. So as I've been working, I've been really focusing on trying to remember what some of those are and which ones would be most applicable for what I'm trying to do. And I think the PNF stretch specifically for the Psoas is one of the most helpful releases that I have ever found. And there are a few ways of doing it, but I'll just show you the one that I use. To make today a little bit more challenging, I'm actually doing it with a 8-pound weighted vest. I honestly don't know if I'm going to be keeping this vest on for the whole 5 rounds, but I thought it was worthwhile to at least try for today. So yeah, let's get started. my hands were super slippery for this. I couldn't hang on very well. I also weighed 8 pounds more than I normally do. And I don't know what it is about the hang down stretches, but apparently I'm always undercounting myself by 1, because that was 9. All right, well, I managed to go all 5 rounds. When I dropped from the bar after 5 reps, it's the first time this happened this whole time. And you don't really think about it, but when I was doing the hanging knee raises, and I was like, wow, why is this so much harder than last week or the week before when I did this? And I was like, oh yeah, 8 pounds makes a difference. So, as you can see, it's a really good workout. So that ended up being at least 50 reps each of every exercise. I actually, whenever I felt good, which was almost every time, I would add more in. The more the merrier. I certainly like to sneak in, goldfish or a plum or like a Milano or something like that. Sneaking in a few more reps, I feel like that's a much better habit to get into. I'm gonna do my psoas release now. So a PNF stretch, or a PNF release it's more of an appropriate name. What it stands for is proprioceptor neuromuscular facilitation. So essentially, this is like a real bare-boned answer. I would like to point out to you that you are on the internet and YouTube, and there are a lot of tutorials on how to properly do PNF stretches that if you really want guidance, you should be looking that up. But I can show you the little bit that I know. All right, let's see, all right, this is pretty good setup anyway. Okay, so ultimately the idea with a PNF stretch is that you are lengthening a muscle, putting it under some slight strain, right, meaning the stretch. So while it's under this strain, you're then gently putting it under load. So a great example of this, and the easiest one, is a hang down stretch like in yoga, right? So in yoga, you go into mountain, you fold forward, and then you come down. I am not the most flexible person. I don't know if you can see this, but my middle finger tip is like 4 to 5 inches away from the ground. And then what do? You do the half lift, and then you go back down, and now my fingertips are 2.5 inches away from the ground. And then I do another half lift, and my fingertips are now touching my toes. And then I do another half lift, and now I'm touching the ground. And it's that you have these muscles, right, and they're contracted, and then they're contracted, and then you stretch them out, you ask them to contract a little bit again, and then when they're allowed to open up, they open up more than they were beforehand when they're in that tension pattern, which is really more of a structural pattern. Like, your body does things for a reason. It's always to help you. So people get mad at their bodies, like, okay. So the way that I do this for my psoas, right, because your psoas does go from here right through the middle of your body to attach into your hip and like the top of your femur, so it's your hip flexor. And they get tight, right? So if you're seated and they're like this and they're short, and they stay short because you sit for a long time, and then you go and you stand up, they're not going to stretch to their full length the way they would if you had better posture and you were standing more and all the rest of that stuff, right? So what happens is it pulls your back forward, and then in order to stretch it back out again, you need to find a way to lengthen this psoas. Yeah, so it really is like the best psoas release. So first I recommend you have something nearby, like a chair or a stool, and you're gonna take a knee if you are able. And then while you're taking that knee, you're gonna lean forward, bend forward as much as you can. Now this is really nice because it's really nice and stable. You have 1 point, 2 point, 3 points, like you're pretty stable. So you let that muscle, so I'm stretching out my right psoas right now, and then I gently put it under load. You can't even see me move, but I'm flexing the muscle enough that I can feel it. I count to 6, and then I release, and you'll notice like now I've gone down more. All right, and I'll put it under load, and adjust a little bit. Put it under load again. 4, 5, 6, and then release. And now, again, I'm able to stretch it out even more. And then I put it under load again. And I release. And like, that's kind of as far as I'm gonna go. Now I like having something nearby, one for balance, but also because the last thing you want is to stretch your muscle, right? The most that you can. And then when you're ready to get back up, to put that muscle under the enormous load of all of your body weight as you try to push yourself back into position. That's just silly. So it's better to be able to push yourself back using your hands, using this leg and whatnot. So yeah, that's the PNF stretch I used to open up this psoas. It was better when I was doing my hanging knee raises. But if you noticed my toes were in like this, because I just don't want this psoas like grinding over whatever it is that it's grinding over. It doesn't feel pleasant, and I'm sure that it's not good for me. So, all right, well, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you again, everyone, for letting me join you. It is, well, it's a little after 11, so I'm gonna start winding down. I work to try to keep that sleep goal tonight. Oh, really good workout. Feeling really, really good. All right, have a good night, everybody.